Hi everyone, it's Monica and welcome back to my channel. Well, today I'm here to share with you this cute little postcard box that I created using one of the new kits from VectoriaDesigns. And I wanted to share with you some of the things that you get in this new kit that she just released. Now this kit, if you've seen some of her bundles before, this is just like some of her other bundles where you're going to get tons and tons of paper product to create lots of things. She's calling her kit Mad About Sewing Project Pack, and if you love sewing, you're going to love this kit. Now this kit has lots of items to create journals. So you get journal covers, you get journal pages, you also get a couple of different sizes of journals. When you get the paper, you're going to get paper that is great for printing really more deeper colors, but you're also going to get paper where it's going to be an ink saver. So if you don't want to necessarily have a lot of background on your paper, she has some options where you can do ink savers, and that's what I chose to do on this one because I wanted my background to be a little bit lighter. Now, like I said, not only are you getting journal covers and journal pages, but you're also getting embellishments. You're getting pockets for the inside of your journal. And then you're also getting an accordion folder paper to help you create accordion folders. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. I'm using some of the paper from the accordion folder to create this cute little box that can house some of my postcards. So it's not just for journals. You can create a lot of things with this pack. And that's really what I wanted to share with you today is some of the options. If you're not necessarily a journal maker, it still definitely is a great value for your buck. Now, some of the paper I wanted to share with you what I'm going to be using. This is an example of one of the pieces of paper, and I used this actually for my belly band on my box. But your paper is going to come out with some gorgeous vintage-inspired sewing elements, and then you're also going to get some of these little bands here that I used to decorate the sides. Now, I didn't decorate the side on this box, but you can certainly do that with some of these little bands here. And then these are the accordion folder pieces that I used to create my box. And this is the piece that you're seeing here on the front and the back. And then there's another design as well with the scissors. And that's what I'm going to go ahead and create today. Since we went ahead and created this one with my promo, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to create this little box. So let's go ahead and get started.
All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start out with a piece of paper that you've trimmed down to 10.5 by 7.5. And then once you get it trimmed down, you're going to want to do some scoring. Now the score lines are going to be on the paper the way that I'm showing you now. It's going to be on the long side. So you're going to want to score at 4 inches, at 4 3/4 inches, 8 3/4 inches, and 9.5 inches. And then for the sides, you're going to want to rotate it and you're going to score at 3/4 inch on each side. And this will help you put your box together. All right, so once you have your score lines in place, then you're going to want to grab your bone folder and reinforce these score lines. And I used a little bit of heavier cardstock because I wanted my box to be somewhat sturdy. So I used cardstock that was, I think, over 100 pounds. So you can use any type of cardstock, of course, but I would recommend using something a little bit more sturdy so that way it will help reinforce the strength of your box. And then once you have your score lines, again, you want to get your bone folder, fold over on the lines, and then just reinforce the creases so that way when you're putting your box together, it's going to go together really nicely. All right, so once your score lines are all in place and you've creased them really nicely, then you're going to want to grab your scissors and we're going to do some trimming. And you're going to be trimming at the bottom of your box as I'm doing right here. And you're also going to want to trim off a little sliver, which will help the piece that we're trimming fold over a little nicely. And this will make sure that the edges don't catch when you're actually folding it over. Now make sure that your sliver is just slight because you don't want to have any gaps. You just want to have enough where the pieces of paper where you're trimming are not touching each other, and it will close and fold nicely for you. And then you're also going to need to trim off the piece right at the very top. And this is going to be your flap. You want to make sure that your flap is a little bit smaller as far as the width, so that way it flaps over once you have your sides folded in. And you're going to trim all the way down to that second score line and then across. Now this box is similar to the little Easter treat box that I made a few days ago, or maybe it was about a week ago, but in any case it was a couple of videos ago. But I just modified the size so that way I could turn it into a postcard holder box. And this way I can print out some of these beautiful papers from Victoria Design and hold them in this little box, so that way when I need a quick little note, I can go ahead and just grab a piece right out. And the accordion file papers are perfect for little postcards. As you can see, I was able to measure up this box and create this box so that way the paper that is already pre-sized for you is almost perfect. All I needed to do is trim a little bit off of the side so that way I could have some white showing on my box. Now, when you're getting your designer paper, the rule of thumb that I typically go with is 1/4 of an inch smaller than my box, or the piece that I'm going to cover. So my box in the front measures 6 inches. So I'm going to want my pieces of paper to be about 5 3/4. And this will give me just a slight edge on each side. And that goes for the side as well. The side is 3/4 inch. So you want your paper to be 1/2 inch. And then as far as the length, it is about 4 inches, so you're going to trim your paper down to about 3 3/4. And that's usually the rule of thumb that I'll use. Now, before you actually adhere your paper, you may want to add just a little bit of distress ink to the edges. But if you've noticed on the paper, Tina did a really nice job of adding some of that shadowy brown already on the paper, but you don't necessarily need to add any more, but I went ahead and I added some just to get rid of any of the white that might be showing. All right, so with the paper edges all distressed up, it was time to add my panels. And I'm using my 3-in-1 beacon to add to the back of my designer paper. And I'm going to add it directly onto my box. And what's really nice about the liquid glue is you are going to get a little bit of movement. So this will help you make sure that your panels are nice and straight. And one thing you want to keep aware of, because this is a box and you are adhering your pieces with the box not quite put together yet, you want to make sure that you do get your pieces going in the right direction. When you fold the other side of the box, you want to make sure that your paper isn't upside down. So just kind of keep that in mind when you are putting your box together. You may want to do a quick check with it kind of folded up together, so that way when all the gluing is said and done, you don't end up with any of your designer pieces upside down. Now you're going to find once you have your card box put together and your pieces of designer cardstock trimmed, the box is going to go together pretty easily. All you need to do is, like I said, add the glue to your designer paper and add it to the edges that are showing. Now on my first box, I didn't actually add the paper to the side box, side part of the box, and I thought it turned out nice. All I did was add the panels to the front and the back and on the top flap, and it still looked really nice. But you can certainly choose the way you're going to design your box according to your need. You could even, if you wanted to, just use an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper to start out with, and then trim it down to the 10.5 by 7.5, and then not have to worry about adhering any of your paper. But one thing you definitely want to make sure of is if you have any designs, when you do the folds, part of your design might be upside down. So if you are going to just use straight designer paper, then you want to make sure there isn't any pattern that needs to go a certain direction. So once you have all of your paper adhered, then it's time to put your box together. And as you can see here, I haven't quite adhered all of my paper, but I'm going to go ahead and start to assemble my box. You could easily add your designer paper when the box is flat, or you can add your paper when it's put together. It really is your choice. Now, like I said, I chose to use the 3-in-1 beacon adhesive, but you could certainly use some of your double-sided tape as well. But just keep in mind, if you are using double-sided tape, once you have your 2 pieces of paper attached, then you're not going to have any movements. So just be really careful if you are using the double-sided tape that you get the placement of your paper right the very first time. With the wet adhesive, you do have to hold it in place a little bit because it needs to get a little bit of tackiness going for it to stick. So if you do use the Beacon 3-in-1, just keep in mind you are going to have to hold that box in place for probably a few seconds just till it catches, and then it can start to dry. All right, so once my box was dry, then it was just a matter of finishing off some of the panels. And as you see here, I'm just adding the glue to the other side of the panel, and then I'm going to add my back designer paper along with the flap, and then I'll have my box all ready to go. Now with this box, the way that I chose to close it is I created a belly band, but there's a lot of ways you can go with this. You can certainly use Velcro. You could use a little clip if you wanted to, but I thought the belly band was perfect because I had some beautiful designer paper to choose from. And then when I did create the belly band, I added some vintage buttons that I had, which kind of finished it off. Now, what I love about this kit is the versatility of the kit. This design that I'm showing you here wasn't really part of the kit, but I was able to use those accordion pieces to create this little box. And this little box is going to create a nice little gift for somebody, especially someone that loves to sew. Not only can you create a box with little postcards, but if you decided to create little note cards instead, you can easily trim down some of the paper to create little note cards, which will fit perfectly into your box. And the pieces that have been side down, the ones that I'm using here, are perfect for the top flap. And it's going to fold over nicely where you're going to have a really nice label for the top of your box. And I also added, just as a little extra design, for the flap that actually is in the front, I did use my corner rounders to edge, or I should say to round the bottom corners, because I wanted the box to have a little bit more of a rounded edge where it flaps over. And like I said, these pieces that I'm using, especially the one that I'm going to be using here in just a minute, is already perfectly sized. So all you need to do is just trim it with your corner rounder on the flap, as well as on the strip that you're going to be adding, and it's going to fit perfectly. And the box just came out beautifully. It was a really easy design to put together, and then just adding this paper that is just so gorgeous really created a nice keepsake. And then once the box was completely finished and I had all of my paper, my designer paper, adhered to decorate it, it was just a matter of printing out a couple of more sheets to create my postcards. And like I said, I chose to create postcards for my box, but you could easily create little note cards as well. Now this kit is going to be on sale over at the VectoriaDesign Etsy shop for 3 days, and she's going to be offering the kit at 70% off through February the 27th, 2020. So if you are interested in this kit, you're definitely going to want to get it now while it's 70% off. And believe me, if you like vintage inspired paper crafting and you like sewing, this is the perfect kit. If you've never checked out Victoria Designs, you're going to definitely want to give her shop a look, because she has some beautiful product to offer to you, and she has some great discounts as well. Now, below I will leave a link to the shop, as well as a link to her YouTube channel, because if you haven't subscribed to her YouTube channel, definitely give it a check, because she always has some great tutorials using some of her kits, and she's very generous with some of her freebies, so you're going to want to check that out as well. Now also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button before you head out. And leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this kit. Personally, I just think it's gorgeous. She has a few other kits that she's created. I think this is her 4th kit. And she always does a wonderful job and offers so many choices of paper for different types of journals and paper crafting with lots of designs to work with. All right, everybody. So thanks so much for stopping by, and I hope that you've enjoyed this little box that I created for note cards, and we'll see you again next time. Take care.